Hot Seat with Penzola. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's episode is in partnership with Samro. I have Utebucho on the hot seat today, also known as Proverb. Proverb, thank you so much for joining Hot Seat with Penzola today.
Thank you so much. It's good to be on the hot seat. I'm ready. Let's do it.
So I mean, I don't wanna. I wanna go straight into it, right?
Sure.
You've been in the industry for a very long time, and you've obviously done lots of interviews. You know, most people know your story in terms of how you landed up in the music industry.
Right.
But I want to start to focus on how long you've been in the industry. You know, that's very rare, and the evolution of artists does seem to be quite a struggle.
Sure.
You know, and we've seen you move from hip hop artist to media personality and a business person. And I do see that, many musicians struggle with that part of their careers, and it's almost as if when they're at that peak, it feels, or it seems like it's not gonna end. And we know it ends most of the time. So talk to me about how you've managed to evolve and keep yourself relevant within the industry.
So it's interesting that you use the word relevant, because for me, that was the least of it all.
Okay.
Relevance. For me, it was always about being able to feed myself, being able to feed my family. And I recognized from the very beginning of my career that entertainment is short-lived, it's brutal, it's unforgiving. You can be as talented as you like. It doesn't equate success. You can be as popular as you like. It's not synonymous with longevity.
Yeah.
You can release all the material and products that you want. If people don't resonate with it, don't buy it, don't support it, it doesn't mean success. You can be known, you can build a brand, you can have popularity.
But it doesn't always
but
link
none
to
of
money.
that. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So I recognized this very early on. And so I always had multiple streams at any one time and multiple interests. So even from the very beginning of my rap career, when I was still recording my demo, I had a job as a technical producer at a radio station.
Sure.
I had studied sound engineering. I had television pursuits. So all of these things kind of started at the same time. It's just that now it seems as though you've evolved from one to the other, when truth is, I always had business interests. And again, it was born of recognizing that you always need to diversify. And to be very frank and honest with you, that has served me so well. It's been my saving grace. I'm so glad that I still think that way till today.
Look, it's quite obvious, because like I said, you have been in the industry for a long
Sure.
time, and you've managed to remain sustainable,
Right.
and branch into the different things. But I'm interested in, was that just an inherent characteristic that you had to be able to kind of think that way? What prompted that? Being a technical producer at a radio station,
Right.
and trying to record your demo. Like,
Sure.
is that something you were born with, or is it something that you learned from your family? Like, where does that come from? Where does that wisdom come from?
So it's multifold, and thank you for calling it wisdom.
Yeah.
Because I actually think it was fear, if I'm being frank and honest with you.
Okay.
So for me, it was, the stakes were so high. If this doesn't work out, I have to take a bus back to Kimberley.
Yeah.
So to go and say to my parents, the very thing you were warning me against,
is
I have
actually
proven
happening.
you correct. For me, the stakes were far too high. So failure was never an option. So I was always going to try everything. And bear in mind, up until the very sort of point I recorded my demo, I had already had gang failures up until that point. Because remember, I came to study IT initially.
Wow.
Didn't even make it to the exams.
Sure.
Because Nikki Pusha, first year's concert, Rez's concert, Rap Activity Jam, Nikki Pusha, all those things. So alright. Then I attempted computer science. Again, I failed. So reality dawned on me very early that if I keep my eggs in this one basket, the stakes are too high, So honestly, it was a combination, obviously, of warnings from my folks, the reality, and if I may quickly share an anecdote, and I'll try and make it short. I saw an interview with a soccer player once on a particular channel. And
was this when you were back in Kimberley?
No, so this was sort of the early days of my career.
Okay.
Boma 2001, 2002,
Yeah.
that sort of time period. And he was sitting on a crate outside a shack. and he was telling us the story. It's almost like a olden day I blew it.
Yeah.
But he was telling us about his heyday, how he was earning in pounds and euros and all sorts of things, and he had so many BMWs and so many fancy things, and how he squandered it all because he reached his sell-by date, he got an injury, and he was old in terms of sports terms. But I realize how parallel that is to the entertainment industry.
Wow.
Because as soon as you sort of enter your late 30s, you're now considered old because there's some 12-year-old who can do what you do better than you can.
Yes,
so when I realized how short-lived it can potentially be, I started thinking about what happens the day after it pops off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What happens when you're no longer the it thing, when you're no longer making the flyers? You know what I mean? Because remember, at first you're the headliner, then you're the and many more.
Yeah.
Then
so after being busy every weekend, during the
then
week,
what?
Then what?
You know what I'm saying? But even at the height of my career, which wasn't that high, by the way, but even at the height of it, right?
But was there money though at the time when you were at your peak? I mean, I know you think.
Well, for me, it was certainly not equating to the investment I was putting in. So I was spending more making the money, spending more on the artwork. I was an indie artist from the beginning, mind you. So I was investing all this time, energy, effort, and I can't say at the height of it I was seeing my returns. Right. But fortunately, to supplement it, I had my TV gig, I had a job. And here's what I wanted to tell you, that even at the height of it, the gigs were, at best, Friday and Saturday. It's saying no way Tuesday.
Like Monday.
You understand? Yeah. So I was realizing from Monday to Friday,
you need to do something.
What must happen? You know what I mean? So it was kind of happening concurrently, and then it was maybe instinctive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you instinctively trying to just have bread on the table.
Yeah.
But now I think it's a lot more intentional. And now I'm actively trying to diversify at all times.
Sure. So talk to me about, I mean, you mentioned earlier that you started your radio career as a technical producer a while back.
Yeah.
So was it easy for you to go back into radio?
Radio was a big chunk of my career. So when I started as a technical producer, I always had on-air aspirations. And then by the time I got to a national radio station, I got to do a graveyard slot. And the stories I could tell you, by the way, I'd go to...
Why do they start that graveyard though? Is it... I mean, I know it probably makes more sense to have a well-known person during the great time slots, but it seems to be a formula, like when you're starting...
Not necessarily. And look, I've spoken about this before in other interviews to say, like music, like radio, and anything in entertainment, the paths are never the same. You could work at a corporate and then all of a sudden you've got a TV show with production, multicam, lights, you name it, right?
Right.
Then you get somebody else who had the long way around, and had to first start submitting demos and sending this. And my radio career was very much the long way around.
Okay.
So I first worked as a technical producer for some 4 years before I even got a shot at on air. And in that time I had been trying. And so I used to work Saturday and Sunday, 3 to 6 a.m.
Sure.
So I would go perform at Who's Who.
And then go into your radio show.
I didn't even have a car. My friend would have to take me to the station to go and back announce songs at 3 a.m. where you're only talking to truck drivers. So
I was about to ask,
that's where I started.
Listening to the show.
You'd be surprised,
Really?
Yeah, truck drivers, I know I was a big hit with when they were in between Volmaran and whatever. Those were the guys. If you ever taken requests and whatever, those were the guys. But I'm honestly grateful that I had it harder. And till today, it's never come easy. But I think the effort for me has really given me a sense of value. While I have the gig, I always ensure to deliver, and it's really served me well. Folks always ask, how is it I'm enjoying a TV, or at least, let me say, the show that I'm on now.
Yeah.
This will be my 13th season.
Yeah.
And I tell them it's the simple things, which work for me. I don't think I'm any more talented than anybody. But things like showing up on time, being likable, being easy to work with, coming prepared and being polite and blah, blah. Those are things I learned from those graveyard slots.
From the hard days.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Because I think had I been spoon-fed, perhaps I'd be approaching it differently. Is what I think.
That is actually where I was gonna go. You know, in terms of the show that you're doing now and how long you've been doing it, and you've literally hit. I mean, you've answered my question around, you know, the hygiene stuff.
Sure.
You know, being there on time, respecting people that you work with. So do you then think, if you hadn't learned that, or if you hadn't done the career, you know, if it wasn't hard, you'd be a bit of a drama king.
Potentially.
Yeah.
I think, you know.
But those people still get lots of gigs.
And this is the argument I had with somebody once.
Yeah.
Where I was talking about how it seems the nice guy never really wins.
Exactly.
You know, and it's such a fine line, I think, between being likable, easy to work with, and humble, versus downplaying, you know, what you bring to the table. Correct. So it's a fine balance. But the inverse is that it's equally true, where you can be as talented, but if you're so full of yourself and unpleasant to work with, you know, you also make it difficult to want to work. And we know many horror stories, I'm sure, between us, of very talented, high-profile folk, but the way they're spoken about in these meetings is to say, what a nightmare that was. Inversely, to say, somebody's moderately talented, which is what I believe I am, really, but they're pleasant to work with, and therefore they get the repeat business.
Yeah. Now let's move into the business, you know, side of things.
Yeah.
You know, I know that you sit on the board at Samro.
I do.
And I suppose as an artist yourself who's done music, you know, who's also in the entertainment industry for long, you know, what is your role that you intend to play? For sure. In this organization, because the horror stories in the industry, I mean, I think you're one of the few people where, and that's why I was interested in what's keeping you so long in the industry. Right. And your answer for me was fulfilling, and I'm hoping that somebody out there listening to this will also learn that, you know, there are certain things that you need to start thinking about very early in the beginning. For sure. So you are sitting at this as a board member. Yeah. Your members are experiencing or have experienced what you've experienced as an artist. Talk to me about your intentions.
Look, I think this is why it positions me well to serve on the board of Samro, because I was for a very long time a struggling artist. I was also very sort of ill-informed, you know, I didn't really know how it all works. So it's easy as a creative who's struggling to want to blame all the institutions, and it's them, and they're not paying us, and they're not doing that, and they're not doing that. So, you know, my initial motivation and motive to even pursue a position on the board was to try and bridge that gap, to say I definitely identify that there's a gap, there's a disconnect, there's even largely so a miscommunication, you know, where it's missed the intentions of the organizations versus the expectations of the creatives. You know, they are sort of clashing somewhere. So it was initially to say, all right, let me get an understanding, and the best way to do that is to be on the inside. Let me understand what is happening there. Is it true? Are all the misconceptions correct?
Because they are there, right? I mean,
very much.
The media, I've never heard a positive story about Samro.
Well, you don't serve on the board. I do.
Well, great. I mean, that's why you're here, right?
Hence I say, there is such a disconnect, because the good intentions, the hard work, the various initiatives, the progress and positives that the organization is doing are not always very well communicated. Correct. You know, but that's also because, and I want to believe you understand how communication works. You know, the barrier of understanding is often fueled by misconception. So in other words, if my expectation of you are to say, when I get there, 5 roses, and then you give me juice, your juice is well intended, but my expectation was tea, so therefore there's a disconnect. Correct. And that's all that I see happening, at least from where I am now. So I'm still very much at the learning, understanding part of it, but my intentions ultimately is not only to try and influence positive change, but if I can also try and bridge that gap. Because having been on the inside, I recognize the great initiatives, and I wish I could tell you all of them in detail, but it's not necessarily my place to. But the great initiatives, the strides, the progress that has been made. We were talking numbers. I was in a board meeting, and if you look at the tremendous, progress that has been made, but because each artist, sees the relationship with the organization as being a one-on-one and doesn't appreciate that we serve the greater industry, it may not necessarily register.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if I say to you, for instance, there's been such and such a percentage of higher payments of artists.
Right.
But because you had one song
and then,
at whatever radio station, and it doesn't sort of impact your bank balance.
It doesn't equate to a payment.
Exactly. Yeah. You may not necessarily understand the progress. So I think if we can just, remove ourselves as seeing it as a one-on-one, but rather an organization to serve the greater industry, then I think you would see the progress a little bit better from a different lens.
Yeah. So you spoke about communication and how that's not going well, the expectation and what is...
there's efforts, but I just think it's clashing sometimes.
And I want to go back to that, so that I'm clear, I understand what you mean by that. You know? So what role of comms are you and your organization playing to educate, to make the artists understand? So me as Penzola, I must understand that firstly when I make the song, I actually interviewed your general manager a while back, and and that's really what we were speaking about, to say the process itself, just the admin, understanding that if my song is done, how do I register it, and I think I found that conversation enlightening for me, because I'm an artist as well. I might not be a musician, but the fact that I have a show and it's on digital platforms, that's being an artist, and just understanding that how do I own this brand?
For sure. And that education, by the way, sorry to jump in, that education of creatives is also very important as well. Because you'll be surprised how little is known of the process and even the administrative process and even basics. Like if the information is incorrect, for instance, how do we contact you? How do we even pay you? For all we're sitting with you.
And that's what I'm asking about. Is that being done? Are you guys doing that for your members?
Yes, but remember, it's two-way. So as an organization, we can do all we can to reach, but if you're not accessible, if you're not reachable, if you're not reading the newsletters, communicating back, or engaging on the social media platforms, or whatever medium we choose, then it makes it difficult. Conversation and communication is two-way. So communicate with us too.
So you're saying that y'all are doing your part, eh?
I'm saying, like with any other industry, bad news spreads faster than good news. And it's not a case of quantity. So in other words, even if there are 100 great stories, the one horror story will spread quicker than the 100 good stories. So, it's just a matter of finding a happy place. And I'm not saying that we are immune to criticism. Of course, the organization should be criticized. Mind you, as a creative myself, a composer, I came in there very critical of the organization, right? Even while I serve on the board. But it's about, understanding as well, coming with the attitude of it's a service, and the organization is there for you. We are not your enemy. So if there's an error or something is not done to your satisfaction, let's communicate about it and try and resolve. But to sit and criticize it and sort of galvanize all sorts of unhappy creatives to say, but I'm not.
But then you guys are aware.
Remember, it's ours though. It's ours. It's not creatives and the organization. The organization is made up of the industry. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
No, I totally get you.
It's a service of the industry.
So they are your members, and you guys are servicing your members. But what I'm saying is, you understand what the sentiment is out there, and the negatives and the stories. So not every negative story is obviously true. But you have an indication of where the gaps could be. from the negative stories themselves, because I believe.
But also, do you find that? And again, I'm not trying to overly defend and say it's not without its flaws. But do you ever find that if you interrogate these said negative stories, many times they're born out of misunderstanding? In other words, you don't understand the process. So it's easy then to say, yeah, so but meanwhile we're like, yeah, but we don't have your bank account. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So often that.
So I said
I'm just making one example using the whole payment thing to say sometimes frustration is just born off of misinformation. So if you fill in everything correctly, if you do your reportings correctly, if the splits are broken up correctly, and you understand how it works, it will make sense to you. But if you don't understand the process and all you see is you keep getting your 56 rand every now and again, but you don't understand why, how is it broken up, what are the process? But you haven't followed the process. So I think a lot of frustration both ways, by the way, is born off of misinformation.
Okay, I think we've said enough about Sambro now. I think, and the idea is obviously to focus on other things that you're doing.
For sure.
Right. So the show that you're currently doing now, I mean, how is that? I know it's obviously.
Which one?
The Idols. Woo! That's not easy. Okay, the Idols, right? So many seasons.
For sure.
And it's about music. You produce talent every year, every season, and. How is that contributing? How is your involvement both at Sambro and Idols? And you're seeing this talent. Is there an education piece in that entire process of Idols?
100%. Idols is the most comprehensive production, and by comprehensive I mean we don't only nurture talent. We empower them in various ways. If you look at all the partners that we have, just last season alone, we had a higher education partner, we had a financial partner, and behind the scenes, we've got all the psychometric sort of partners on board, because we want to make it very wholesome and comprehensive, and it's not just about getting up there and singing.
Correct.
And may I also add one unique selling point that sets us head and shoulders above, I want to say everybody,
I think
is that we make millionaires, Is nobody going to talk about this? But we make millionaires.
You make millionaires just for that year? Or do they continue making
millionaires? Over a million every
No.
So how the deal works between the production and the artist, and by the artist, by extension, I mean their record label, their management, right? That's by extension.
Okay.
Our job is to give you a platform, give you the tools, give you the resources.
Correct.
Right? Which include, your brand. Now you have a recognizable face, name, everybody knows
all
you.
Of that nice
Plus
things.
we've given you capital, and don't get me started on the list of sponsors who all throw product at you. Correct. Right? So cell phones. Man, one year we were giving washing machines, but let me not digress. So once we've given you all these tools, your job is to go and start a career.
Correct, yes. And you've set them up. There's proper foundation.
For sure. And often I know there's a little bit of a misunderstanding, certainly from consumers of the show. They think we're here to build careers. We're not. We're here to keep eyes on screens. So my mandate is to make sure people watch, are interested, there's talkability, they vote, they participate, and we have this star who emerges from the show. But once I shake your hand and I say congratulations, you're the winner, and it's in bye-bye. But to say I've now given you the tools, including a record company, including management, now yours is to go and run a career. Because I can't still come back and say,
no, I hear you, right?
Where's the album? Where's the single? That's now your prerogative. My job becomes, who else can I go make a millionaire?
Correct.
Who else can I?
And I wanna go deeper into this, right? So we've spoken about musicians that start from the tough road and they go up and they're bolona so
Yeah.
Kimberly Lily studio and you made a demo at your mom's using your mother's radio.
Man. I still have that cassette.
Oh, understand, cassette. Man, at least if it's somewhere. But I want to go back to even though there's two ways where you struggle to get to where you are.
Yeah.
And there's this way where you obviously struggle to a certain degree in terms of competing and being voted and being given feedback by your judges. But you are given a nice foundation of stuff that you need to now build this career. But what I'm seeing in most of them, both these and these, the end is the same.
Sure.
I understand. So how much of the foundation and the building and the education is actually working
for sure
for these ones that have been pipelined and given the support versus where you started the way you did, but for whatever reason you learned your lesson and you watched an I Blew It episode back then which showed you that hey, it could be bad and I therefore need to and I'm talking from a few of the ones that I've seen that have made it
for sure
have won the title, but I see them, it's like, okay.
No, that's very fair.
You understand?
No, that's very fair. And I won't ever try and defend the industry.
Correct.
Because it's brutal.
Yeah.
There's no formula that guarantees success. So that one I can't defend because it's a matter of fact. You can have, and we know them, you can have a hot cooking banger today. It brings in the new year, it's the one.
It's the most streamed.
But next month, there's a new person, there's a new talent. So the reason I have to set that playing field is to say idols isn't immune to the reality of how brutal the industry is. No. Okay. So we can churn them out all we like. But if the industry isn't receptive, that's no failing of the show. Because I've achieved my mandate, which is I've unearthed this talent, I've given them its platform, I've made a millionaire. May I also
I like the statement, I've made a millionaire.
Which again, because we
no,
sleep on that. I know plenty of musicians who their entire career span will never touch $1 million. I never touched $1 million. But that's why I'm drawn to this platform. Because and also just to sort of reverse a little bit, it's the same reason I want to serve on this board as well. Because just because I didn't achieve success, my legacy is to ensure that those who follow me do.
Right.
Do you understand? And here's the bit that I wanted to say real quick. The unpopular opinion about music and the music industry, and I'm gonna get hammered for this one, is that as consumers of music, we never like to take accountability for our part in all of this. May I?
Please.
May I unpack it?
Yeah, unpack it.
Okay. We like to sit in our high chairs as we are now, our hot seats, and say, Bunny fails, Bunny whatever, how? Bailey guy, oh, they won, I haven't seen them since, I haven't whatever. Né? I always ask myself, yeah, but did you buy it? Did you come to their show?
Why must I buy it? I must buy what I like. If I don't like it.
Yes, because the life cycle of an entertainer's career is we create, we make available, and you ideally support. Without the third element, how do you expect anybody to be a success? Then we sit and we say, hey, Uwele man, or Asikimon, or they want no. It's a fact.
Okay, how will Uwele, right?
No. But let's attribute it to something.
But what I'm
to
saying
say
to
why.
you is, if I don't, let's treat music like any other corporate environment, right?
Yeah.
If I decide to design a clothing line, those that will buy it are those that like it.
Yeah.
If it doesn't appeal to you, you won't buy it. So I can't now say my boutique is not successful because you South Africans or you whoever are not supporting me. But I must design stuff that people like, and hence, you need to understand who your market is, and so even the guys that make it big, that we did support, that you download their songs and you buy, they still get to the point.
Can I make an argument?
Yeah.
Counter to that. So as a musician myself, some years ago, I did a song called Writers Club. Writers Club today is cooking on social media. Everybody is loving all these reaction videos. That's now a trend. So all these American guys, well, you know, especially now that it's Americans, they consider it valid. All these American guys are recording videos of them recording to the song, reacting to the song.
Yes.
They are getting all the traffic and the numbers, and everybody keeps sending the clips to me. They're bona, blah, blah, whatever. But here's the point I'm getting at. People think by talking about it, liking it, sharing it, harassing you, when is the next one? When is it? People think that is support. And it isn't support. Support is buying, purchasing, not talkability. Because if you had said to me, no, nobody's talking about it, we don't even know about it, then I would believe your theory. But think of all the local brands, right? We know them all, the shoe brands, the clothing brands, the whatever brands. Everybody talks about them. But then you go out and you ask, yeah, but how many of them do you have? How many of them are you physically buying?
Well,
do you get what I'm trying to say?
I don't think we
So sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. So I just want to conclude my point.
Sure.
So the point I'm making is, in the life cycle of creatives, right? I just find that we poke holes at all the legs, but we never interrogate what, in my mind, is the pillar of it all, which is support. You know, if I can use my TV show as an example, if somebody wins, right, they've got 5 million votes, right? My viewership is through the roof. That means all of you were watching, all of you were voting, all of you whatever. The same person took that very single that they won with. So you can't say it's the single that they won the show with, and then they release it. Then they saw, hi, oh well. Then you're like,
you know, okay.
But support it.
Yeah, listen.
You made this person win. Who made them win? It wasn't me.
No, of course it wasn't.
Who made them win?
It was them that made them win. Maybe because they liked the person or whatever.
Then support them beyond the show.
That's fine. I'm saying to you, I don't think we'll agree. Let's agree to disagree on this one, right?
Fair enough.
Because I strongly believe that, you know, whatever you put out there, there must be a reason that drives people to support. So maybe people are voting because they like you as a presenter, or people are voting because there's a Randall, there's a Somizi, there's whoever. There's various reasons why people would vote versus buying the single. So I'm just saying that, you know, the support, everybody needs support, especially when you're in business, whether it's music, whether it's a show.
For sure.
I need support for people to watch the show, right? So, but whether if I don't put out content that is interesting, they're not going to watch it, you know?
So tell me though, why, whenever we talk about artists who are successful, why at any one point can we only name a handful, 5? Where are the rest of them?
I don't think that we can only name a handful. I think there are many, you know.
No, there aren't many. Many is a strong word.
Mamela, I think that
many is a strong word.
But let's look at it. So let's go back to your I Blued episode you said you watch, you know, of a soccer player. You know, there are certain careers that have a lifespan, and I think that, you know, the education around that is key. So if as a soccer player you can only play up until a particular age, and there are risks. So if your knee breaks and that's it for you. You spoke about diversifying and doing other things outside of that. And I think in entertainment industry, there's a thread for me that is common that makes this industry brutal, like you say, because there's a peak and then it dies, you know, and so other things that you mentioned, you know, it could be relationships in the industry. I was watching a show the other day, and Oscar was being interviewed, and you know, if you listen to his stories and if you listen to the type of artist he's worked, the key thing that came out for me in that conversation is the way in which he values relationships, which is why he's still where he is today. You know, not necessarily, you know, maybe it doesn't have a number one track today, but he's in business, he's still making a living.
Sure.
So I'm saying to you, outside of just the support, the way in which we present ourselves when we're at our peak also contributes to the people saying, "Uwile."
No, 100%.
Why?
Remember, I'm not taking away from any of the other elements.
Correct.
I'm just saying, included in all of that. The
okay.
one we never discuss is that one. I'm not saying that it's because of, it's squarely because of support.
Yeah.
I'm saying, sure, it's a combo of all of those things. I'm just saying, no one ever talks about that part of it. We never say, you know when you crit something and saying it's a failure.
Yeah.
In that criticism, we never include how we contributed to it failing.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm trying to say?
I'll give you that
and for me, it just boils down to.
So if we're gonna look at something, let's look at it
holistically.
Yeah.
Say, all right,
Yeah.
And then
bully on social media.
Yeah, because they post all day long.
Yeah, true.
14th August, Kabekeli, Munaring them. Then you're like,
nobody goes there.
14 August, I know I'm pretty.
Mara, we gonna like the post. Mara,
yeah. And then you say, and then they say, no, 3 people came.
True.
Then we're like, it was a disaster of a show. But you're like, yeah, but what was my role in that?
Yeah.
I didn't come.
Yeah.
This is all I'm saying.
No, you got a point. Okay, I'm gonna give you that half a point. Not all.
Yeah.
Not all.
And I want to give you yours too, to say, I'm not saying it's squarely support.
Correct. Yeah.
I guess if we can agree on just this one thing, that it's the only element we seem to not talk
include.
about. Yeah.
Okay.
How is it that you have 1 million followers on whatever platform?
But then there's no million streams.
But you've never even sold 1,000 anything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You're aware, but it's just the support.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. Cool. I think we can go on forever and the whole day with this conversation. But
Yeah, sure.
I want to go back to your radio career bit.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Earlier on, you mentioned you started with graveyard and you mentioned a few stories that you could.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you can share a story here, 1 or 2.
There's so many, and I can and I will.
Yeah, please.
So, because it's graveyard, remember those are unforgiving hours.
We take the track, but the truck driver.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but also getting there on time, staying there, and all that.
Yes, yeah.
I have gotten a few times, and notice how I'm reclusing myself from being the bad guy in the story. But I have arrived at a show once to find the DJ before me passed out on the floor.
Yeah, studio.
Yeah, studio, and it was dead air at that time. And you know something, in their defense.
So wait, so during the show, the person is sleeping.
Because Nerira so, mind you, get more 3, 4 a.m.
Okay,
so you play a song over remote game. You understand what I'm saying? And then you come back and you back and out. Hey, that was whatever, cool, whatever. Coming up next is so and so and whatever. All right, cool, yeah. But then the song finishes, and it fades out. This is where it gets you. Then it fades out. And then you haven't cute the next thing, you haven't cute the next song.
But can you not cue like a couple of songs and you can advert?
No, sure you can, but I just mean to say, so I have walked into a studio where somebody, bless their heart, was obviously from a gig, you know what I mean, coming straight to this thing, passed out dead air. My program's manager is, next thing you must now rush, get there 1:30, your slots only starts at 3,
but you must,
you know what I'm saying? And that's only one of the many. They get darker.
Oh,
they get darker than that.
Let's protect other kids, right? So and the other thing I want to ask is, you now I agree to give you half a point with that support thing, right? So
okay.
Yeah. So when you, how does the radio industry then contribute to the story of support and
for sure
the consumption? Because you mentioned earlier, there's now this video is trending and only because there's Americans involved. So how do we shift the dial in the more music or our own South African music is played in radio, then the more the members of the organization, can get more payouts. out, or there's a support, I guess.
100%.
So how do we shift the mindset that South Africa is not good enough, And not only in the music industry, even clothes, we pay more for something else, but we wouldn't pay for a Makosa dress, type of thing.
For sure.
So how does that...
You know what? Can I answer it this way?
Okay.
Because in my mind, I'm almost going to paint just a better picture.
Okay.
And it's to say, slowly and katada, but I think that tide is turning.
You think?
I think that wheel is turning. It's very slow, but it's definitely clogging in the right direction. And I'll tell you what makes me realize this. Because you'll be watching pay TV, and you'll realize 3 of the 800 that are on offer are locally produced.
Yeah.
You'll put it on, and it's so refreshing. Even if it's 1 out of the entire score, but you'll hear like a local song.
Wow.
That was unheard of. I want to even say 2 years ago, not even 10. That was unheard of. So in my mind, the tide is turning, and I like to travel. Okay, there is no feeling like being in a foreign country
and you hear
minding your business.
Yeah.
Ubudla,
or
listen, I get goosebumps.
And are they playing? So these countries do play our music, right?
Look, as I say, I want to be cautious in my optimism and say we're getting there. It's a far way to go, but I think we're taking steps in the right direction. It was certainly unheard of in our day. You remember when
do you remember when YFM started? That's how they started.
I wanted to actually tell you.
Oh, okay.
No, but I wanted to tell you the story. You'd record a single, and back in our days, it was immediate. In other words, studio session three.
Yeah.
You burn your CD there.
Right there.
Ka 5 already. You also. Sleeping. You wasting time. We're there at the radio station with our CD like this. For them to at least consider it.
Wow.
For them to consider it. And for local music, much less hip hop, it was a stretch for them to play your stuff. Now, you'll hear a mix at least.
Correct.
Of 45 minutes of Proudly South African. Now, I'm not saying the problems are solved. I'm just saying that we are definitely taking strides. I think I was one of the few, because it seems like it wasn't widely loved. But when it was proposed that 90%...
Yeah, I was about to go to that 90%.
I thought
it was great.
Look, I honestly thought it was drastic. And it could have been, the execution. So it could have been implemented in phases.
The idea was great, yes.
But I thought that was coming from a brilliant place. The intention, at least, was good. Obviously, because Niggas Pana Radio, when that was happening, man, I remember us having to come in and erase the entire back end of scheduling, and all of a sudden...
To accommodate this 90%.
Yeah, because it was overnight.
But
I honestly thought it was well intended.
Yeah, I also think so.
Yeah, the execution may be questionable, but it was well intended.
Even with TV as well. I mean, some of the programs were cut out.
Yeah.
There you
go. There you go.
And I think it was good.
Yeah. Or even adverts. Have you ever heard an advert and next thing a Kulichana's on or a double HP is on?
Yeah.
I heard, and I nearly cried the other day because I'm emo like that.
Cried? Okay.
I nearly cried. I'm a crier. Man, they played a Pro song, the late great Pro. Mind you, because he's got a daughter, you understand?
Yeah.
And they were using his material in an advert.
And that pays out, right? So even when
it does
he's
pay
passed
out.
on, it does pay out.
It does pay out. Look, to the estate.
Have to be a beneficiary.
I suppose it depends on who you nominated, like any policy or whatever.
Okay,
but I want to hope his daughter is
yeah,
included in there.
Before we close, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned obviously that they were playing. You cried when they were playing Pro.
I just got very emotional.
Yeah, because I mean, he has passed on and he was quite a talented oak. Before we close, I mean, I that story of you guys fighting for the name, what happened?
Yeah.
Is that true or not?
Interesting. It devolved into something like that. Okay. So how it actually started was Bad Boy T, who was on YFM at the time, obviously identified that there's now multiple pros here. And I had just released my debut album. Pro was on the verge of releasing his. So I'm talking early days timeline-wise, okay? And so we were then invited to do a showcase at the Rand Easter Show. Now, it just so happens maybe some 2 days, 3 days before that, Pro and I were on a lineup at another gig.
Right.
But I remember, in fact, it might have been the Channel O Awards. And we met each other backstage. Mind you, we weren't necessarily friends. But we had, not really. But we had interacted once or twice before. I certainly knew who he was and vice versa.
Yes.
And so we spoke about this thing because it had now picked up momentum on radio, the two pros, the panel, the this, that. And we were like, so, but are we doing this thing come the weekend? No. Then
so was the media fueling the fight, or what was going on?
It was started by the radio station, who, by the way, was sponsor of the hip hop segment for the Rand show. But Bad Boy T's always been an instigator, but I love him. That's my big brother. Anyway, so he and I agreed that we're not going to, because at the time it was about we about to release our debut albums. There was mutual respect. He had the one song on radio, I had a full album, but I had related to my ex and whatever. So there was a mutual understanding between he and I that we're not going to do we're not going to do this music thing. Okay. It's about the music. Okay. So come the Rand Easter show, I performed first in the sequence of acts between he and I performed first. I had lots of traction because I was a Channel O presenter at that time. I had danced some to groundbreakers at the time. I had been a Jam Alley contestant at the time. And I'm mentioning these things because they would later surface, and you'll see where shortly.
Okay.
But anyway, the crowd responds, cheers, and then it's a thing. My boy Pro comes on. Now he only had one single at the time, which was on rotation. So he does perform a few of his other songs, and then he closes obviously with the big song. It's a massive thing. But before he exits the stage, because Bad Boy T happens to be emceeing this thing, Bad Boy T doesn't let it up. And Bad Boy T says, yo, we spoke about this battle. We've been talking about it the whole time. And he's saying all of this to the crowd.
Pro is still on stage and you are off stage.
He's saying this to the crowd. The crowd is bloodthirsty. The blood is dripping from their fangs. They want the battle. War. Yes. So now, from the sort of step leading up to the stage, Madud and I give each other this unspoken. The crowd at that time is cooking. The crowd is they're pumping. So I think, and I say mutual understanding because we didn't really exchange any words, but there was like a
thing.
Then we're like, you know what? For the sake of the showcase, let's not go.
Wow.
So we go on. All of a sudden, the stage is even full now, and it's because the attention is here. So I go first, and bear in mind, I knew very little about the guy, and so all I've got for me is that he's got a little voice, and he's a little bit smaller in stature. So I'm just going on the superficial about how, you got a little voice and your voice must break and you must this and look at you and you must this and you must this, you must this, you must this.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me, my dude came prepped. And by prepped I mean...
My word!
Because all the things I had mentioned...
But when you didn't prep because you all agreed.
The boy was coming at it. No, but also to be fair, even if he hadn't prepped, I was out before him in terms of I was visible. Everyone knew I worked at Y.
So he needed to
TV
be
show and whatever. Yes. So all that info was freely available. You get what I'm trying to say? But I knew nothing about him.
Yeah.
Boy, did I walk into a situation. Then all of a sudden I hear all these details surfacing. Oh, you think Channel O is this, that, and the other? You think YFM is this, and Stomp the Groundbreakers. Munna did he ambush the boy? So It's now a second round.
Now?
It's second round. Now I'm clutching at straws. You know, now I'm clutching at straws, and I'm just, but you also this and that, and I'm trying to use now everything he mentioned in my defense. Yeah, but I am on TV and and I've got nothing. And here's what sealed it and put the nail in the coffin. Mind you, this story ends with me losing. I want you to know.
No, it sounds
but
like
I want to tell you where the nail in the coffin comes in. Because then it gets territorial. Then he starts going on about how it's Soweto here and blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden, I'm from Kimberley, yo.
Oh,
so
crap.
Territorially, I'm out of my depth. Ne?
Yeah.
Now, I also want to mention this, and it's not even an excuse. So I speak no Zulu. I speak none of it. And does my dude not do a whole thing
in Zulu?
In vernac.
And I was on Nix.
Blank. The crowd is long converted. And it was finished. It was finished. Look, by the end of it, obviously, we shook hands and it was amicable in the crowd, whatever. I had just released, so I used the opportunity to promote the album and whatever. Yes. But that's how it ended. It ended with...
you lost.
Oh,
you lost.
But I lost when?
Yeah,
but now...
It's a pity pro Hassan to watch this episode.
No, but I never pretended any otherwise.
What I'm saying is how you would have laughed just hearing you say it.
For sure.
Yeah.
So on where the name story comes from was on radio. Pro had just gotten signed to the major at the time, just Gallo, but he hadn't released yet.
Okay.
And so Tabiso, aka Hip Hop Scholar, is now the marketing guy on the phone and whatever. So they're chatting to him on the phone to say, there was this major development, blah, blah. What does this now mean and spell for hip-hop?
Yes.
He then, I don't know if he had preconceived it or if he thought of it on the spot because they asked. He then says, man, because they are both pros, I think it's only fair that my dude lets go of the name Pro then because he's now lost that battle. And that, I think, is what informed the narrative of the battle. Then it became about the names, which it wasn't, in my understanding.
So the battle wasn't really about the name?
No. In fact, in my mind, it was a showcase. Look, it was a brutal assault, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But it was a showcase in the hip-hop segment of that thing. But then it later devolved into but then they names, but then they whatevers. But listen, nothing but respect to my dude. May he rest in peace. Yeah. My biggest regret is that we never got to do a collaboration piece. It was always spoken of in the wings. It's not I've released a second, and I really hate that his life ended before we could do that. I sincerely wish we had.
Yeah, it did end too soon. Yeah. But I mean, any collabo that you think was the best in your entire career that you did?
That's really, really, really unfair of a question because you must factor that I had 5 albums with 16 songs each, a mixtape, a DVD, countless collaborations. At one time, and I hate to keep bringing Samuel back in, at one stage, I remember the guy telling me I had about 112 active songs.
Sure.
At any one time, and I don't even think this was at the end of my career. So to try and pick a collab,
well, you gotta try. I mean, there must be one
out
that
of
you
all
did.
of those,
is
tricky, man. But I must. No, that's really tough. Look, I had plenty collabs with my dude Jabba, and look, I think of him now because we're speaking of Pro. May he also rest in peace. Yep. But I had some exciting, unexpected collaborations. Like I got to collaborate with Punchline. Punchline is just a New York MC. He was a part of a duo, Punchline and Wordsworth. That was an unexpected one. I got to do a song with J Live, who's also a New York MC. And then, of course, I had collabs with a guy called Mode 9, who's a Nigerian MC based out in the UK. So, honestly, man, I think back to my career, and often I would put my catalog on shuffle, and I honestly listen to it fondly because I really had a rich, fruitful hip hop career. I did, for sure.
Before I let you go, I think this has been such a fruitful conversation for me, Proverb. I think it's really, really encouraging and inspiring to see that, from the early age, you were really quite diverse in thinking. And I think the key thing is it was about failing and money, and that was the driver, according to what you're saying. So, but I think in closing, I just want to understand, what are you busy with? What can we see? And what can we expect from you?
So, I co-own a production company, Seat Entertainment, right? And we are busy now with our current season of SA Idols, but we're also doing Idols Nigeria.
Okay.
And we've also secured, and I wish I could share, man, it's such a pity, but we've just secured a national interest production. Details of which I think will be available soon.
Okay.
For my production team, so that's what this year is looking like from a production point of view. And of course, I do host South African Idols. I also host a property show called The Property Game, which is actually a property education game.
Okay.
Now it's interesting because I'm also in partnership with them, and we have a new property called The Inner Circle, which is again about providing education around property investment.
Okay.
But on you sort of register to become a part of this community. So it's called The Inner Circle. Do look out for that.
Okay.
And the property game, which I now own a 30% part of, is to try and license it in various territories beyond SA. Right? So that's a TV part of it.
Sure.
Yeah, you have to be, man. And then I'm a full-time student as well, believe it or not.
What are you studying?
I'm studying a BBA at Regenesis Business School. This is my second year, and I'm glad we spoke about education earlier on, because
no offense.
Computer, but here I am trying to fix that. Yeah, so the end goal and the end game for me is if I can try get an MBA in my lifetime. That'll be so rewarding. My parents are both academics. My dad's a medical doctor. My mom, who's now sadly late, but was a professor at the University of North. So at one time, my letters coming home were saying Dr. and Dr. or Dr. Stekisho, and then there I am yo-yo-yoing. Imagine, So then there's the academic side of things. Then on a corporate, I've got a few business interests, including serving on the board of Samro and a couple of initiatives that I'm doing there.
So when do you get time to do personal life? Because it really sounds like you are. And by personal life, I mean, Mujolo, all these things.
For sure.
Yeah.
Look, I think if and when you love what you do, then that is your personal life. I also think I squandered so much of my life, believe it or not. Even though I had a fruitful, happy life, I think I have played enough, man. And it's time to get a little bit serious with my life. I mean, I'm 40 now, and I think when I sort of hit that pinnacle, I just decided to shift the focus and priorities, and this is what's important to me now.
Sure. Thank you so much for coming to Hot Seats. Really shared some valuable information with us, and loving this partnership with the Samro. And this is the music edition on Hot Seat with Penzola. Guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. If you do have a question, and if you feel there is a particular question I did not ask this guy.
And I'm an author.
But I forgot about that part. But you didn't even bring us books.
You must buy. How must I eat? We spoke about support extensively.
Guys, I need to let this guy go. If you do have a question for him, please don't forget to ask your question on the comment section. I definitely will get him to answer some of your questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a real thing. It's the music edition in partnership with Samro.